Hi guys, welcome to this weekend's discussion on GK, that is general knowledge. As usual, we'll discuss the global economy, the world of banking, and of course current affairs. And as promised, the most important focus area of this talk, will be the Israel-Palestine conflict. I'm going to take you through this. So this would take about 30 minutes or so. But importantly, by the end of this 30-minute talk or so, you would have a lot of good idea about, I would say a great idea about what the conflict is. Okay, I'm not going to bring you to killings and all that. I'll take you through some maps which will help you understand things much better. Maps are awesome if you understand them well and employ them, use them well in the right place at the right time to understand the right thing. So here's the first question. So as usual, the first question is on Israel, just to make yourselves familiar. Which of the following is not true about Israel? The capital is Jerusalem, that's the president's name, Reuven Rivlin. The prime minister as of now, is Benjamin Netanyahu. He's likely to be the prime minister for the next few years unless he's indicted in the corruption trial that's happening now. And why is for the right choice? That is, Parliament of Israel is called. It's called the Knesset, Knesset, Knesset. You could write this Knesset, Knesset. The Parliament is called Knesset, Knesset, and the Parliament here mentioned is Diet. Diet is for the for the Kingdom of Japan. Not exactly kingdom, but yeah, let's call it Japan. Kingdom. Japan. It's Japan because Japan has an emperor as a head of state. So Japan's parliament is called Diet, D-I-E-T, or you could call it Diet. No harm. Those are things about Israel. So where is Israel? So I'm going to take you through this one map. 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm going to take you through 4 maps. But before that, where is Israel? So you would be somewhere here, west of this or east of this place, Pakistan. That we are in India, my friends. Then we have Iran, as I mentioned in the previous session, and let me repeat. I'm going to repeat a few things about these countries. Iran is a Shia Muslim country. As you know, in Islam there are 2 major sects. There are a lot of them, but 2 major ones are Sunni and Shia. About 82 or 83% of world's Muslims practice Sunni Islam, while about 10 to 12% of them practice Shia Islam. Amongst Shia Islamic nations, the most powerful, the most populous one is Iran. So remember, Iran is a Shia Muslim nation, okay? And its biggest rival in this region is that country there, Saudi Arabia, this huge country, Saudi Arabia. Okay, now Iran is pretty large. Iran itself is about 16.48 lakh square kilometers. That would make it about 50% of India's area with a population of about 9 crore. Yeah. Look at Saudi Arabia, pretty small country, less than 4 crores in population, but look at the area, it's about 20 lakh, more than 20 lakh square kilometers. This around actually. Okay, now you look at this. What separates these 2 countries? Almost pretty little here. You see this Persian Gulf here? Yes. A Gulf is an adjunct of, or basically an extension of the water body into, in an inlet, INLET. This is, this is an extension of, the Arabian Sea or the Indian Ocean into this region here. Now you see this is Iraq, which is again Shia Muslim countries. Syria is predominantly Sunni, about 74% population is Sunni Islam practicing, but the leader Bashar al-Assad is Shia Muslim, okay? And Iran supports Iraq and the ruler of Syria. Iran is avowedly anti-Israel, openly anti-Israel. Iran openly calls for the destruction of the state of Israel. So this is Israel, my friends. You see it's in purple here. This is Israel. This is a very tiny country. and it's in conflict with one particular country here. You could call it country, territory, whatever, however comfortable you are. This is Palestine. This is West Bank. We'll go closer in another map. This is West Bank, and there is a small strip of land about 360 square kilometers of Gaza. Gaza. You can say Gaza or Gaza. So neighboring countries: Jordan, Syria. Syria is anti-Israel. Jordan, you could say it's not exactly pro-Israel or anti-Israel. It's like, you know, neutral country. It's pretty practical. It's like we have got to live with this neighbor kind of country. Okay. Then this is Egypt. This is Egypt. ये पूरा Egypt है. Egypt का Sinai Peninsula, और ये देखिए पूरा Egypt है यहाँ पे. ठीक है. So let me take you to now this region. See, historical, and before that I'll give you some data on Israel Palestine. Please write just 2-3 points. Okay. Right. Israel, ISRAEL. Israel, it's mentioned there. Israel dash. Area 20,770 square kilometers. Just to give you an idea, I want you to write 20,770 square kilometers. 20,770 square kilometers. Yeah. 20,770 square kilometers. Next, population about 92 lakh. 92 lakh. I was about thinking of 9.2 million. It's 92 lakh is easier to remember. 92 lakhs. So it's a tad less than 1 crore. GDP about $410 billion. About $410 billion. $410 billion. Don't mind, yeah. This just a leg strain, yeah, strain, so a bit difficult to say. So $410 billion, and you know, the per capita income is about $45,000. It's little under 44,000, 45, but make it $45,000. $45,000. You know the Prime Minister and everything, so leave one line space, right? Palestine, 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 Palestine. Underline that. Palestine, underline that. Capital Jerusalem, Jerusalem. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, in brackets, declared, declared, D-E-C-L-A-R-E-D, declared. Next, de facto capital, de facto capital. By more or less, for all practical purposes, the capital is Ramallah, R-A-M-A-L-L-A-H, Ramallah. It's Ram plus Allah. I know. So Ramallah. Then the president is Mahmoud Abbas. Mahmoud Abbas. Oh, we didn't take the area and the population. Anyway, we'll take. President is Mahmoud, I repeat, M-A-H-M-O-U-D, Mahmoud Abbas, A-B-B-A-S, Mahmoud Abbas. Next, area, I'm sorry, we skipped that. Area, 6,020 square kilometers, 6,020 square kilometers, 6,020 square kilometers. Population 51 lakhs, 51 lakh. GDP is nowhere to be calculated. In fact, I hardly found any data, authentic data, reliable data. So keep it out. Okay. So anyway, these are the countries in this region. So let me take you to now the problem. See, historically, Jews, Jews, there are two major religions involved in this. You may call it a land problem, a religion problem, a religious issue. You may describe the conflict between Israel and Palestine as a religious issue, as a territorial issue, or a civilizational issue. Whatever you want to use, please use those terms. I don't have a problem. I'm not going to take sides. We are Indians, we don't take sides in this case because they are fighting, we are not fighting. If it's a case between India and China, we will take India's side. When it comes to Israel and Palestine, our job is to ensure that we work in national interest. You and I work in national interest. What is good to us is good for the country. That is, if Israel is good to India, we should support Israel. If Palestine supports India, we should support Palestine. That's how it works. National interest is number one. Okay? So, you will find that, the identity that most people here have, it counts for, importantly it counts, but it does not count. So, historically, Jews and Muslims have fought on, are the major parties in this conflict. Jews, Jews, Jews and Muslims. Muslims practice Islam and Jews practice Judaism. 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 Okay? Judaism. I'll go slow so that you could write. Judaism. Write random words. I'm not going to give you notes. I'm going to give you random ideas. Ideas in the sense that I'll tell you a story. You can make something out of it. Okay? So, Islam, Christianity and Judaism are together called Abrahamic faiths, Abrahamic religions. Abraham, Abraham? Abrahamic, I see, Abrahamic. Why? Because all the three religions have the same, more or less the same prophets. You see, Abraham was a prophet in all the three religions. You have this in Judaism, you have the guy in Christianity, and you have them in Islam. In Islam, it's Ibrahim. The names change. Adam. Solomon, Suleiman. Yaqub, Jacob. Alexander, Sikandar. Names more or less the same. Okay. Now, Jews have been persecuted. See, Islam was founded in the 7th century AD, about 1400 years back. I'm give you rough. I don't want you to write exact numbers, okay? About 1400 years back, Islam was founded. Christianity is said to have been founded, of course, after the birth of Jesus and all. So it's about 2000 years old. If you look at Judaism, is said to be the oldest of all these three. Is said to be about 4500 years old. Historians dispute this, but it's not our job to get there. Long before Islam was born, Christians and Jews never saw eye to eye. They never liked each other. The Christians have always blamed the Jews for the crucifixion of Christ. So wherever there were Jews in Christian countries, they were persecuted. They were discriminated against by Christians. Even after Islam was born, this persecution continued. So nothing has changed. The only country where Jews have never been persecuted is India. You can write this on the stamp paper. India is the only country where Jews have never been discriminated against just for being Jews. हम रिलीजन के बारे में बात नहीं करेंगे, हम मजहब के बारे में बात नहीं करेंगे, हम बात करेंगे राजनीति की, politics, how countries use, politics basically. That's it, nothing. But some basis बेसिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग होनी चाहिए. तो Jews began to come to this area, what today we call Israel Palestine. Okay, they began to come here. They began to come here, and not just in the last 50, 60, 70, 80 years, but even before that, hundreds of years. Slowly they began moving. Whenever they felt persecuted, wherever they felt persecuted, they moved away from that place. But they found that persecution was there everywhere. Wherever the Christians were, there was persecution. So in any case, after Hitler came to power, Adolf Hitler came to power in Germany in 1933. He became the Chancellor of Germany in 1933. In 1939, he began his occupation of Europe. He began to invade other countries in Europe, occupy them. He had an extraordinary hatred of Jews, whom he blamed for all the miseries of, Germany, which she had suffered after her defeat in the First World War. He believed that Jews were primarily responsible for the economic collapse, for the military collapse of Germany. He believed that Jews sided with the enemies, and they kind of worked against the German interests. So wherever he went, he punished Jews. He started a policy of what is called the final solution. He began to systematically round up Jews and kill them. There are multiple reasons as to why he did this. And he killed them in multiple ways. The systematic killing or systemic killing of Jews by Adolf Hitler and his Nazi army and his NSDAP between 1933 and 1945 is called, now today we call it Holocaust. HOLOCAUST, Holocaust. Okay? इन 12 सालों में 1933 से 1945 तक जब हिटलर की मौत हुई, जर्मनी लॉस्ट अ वॉर, सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर, about 61 lakh Jews were killed. 61 lakh Jews were killed. I'm so sorry. 61 lakh Jews were killed. And you know what happened? A lot of these Jews escaped Europe to escape the Nazi persecution and began to come here. They began to come to this area. So as historically this area has been a part of the Ottoman Empire. Ottoman Empire ran from Turkey. ये पूरा जो है ये पूरा Ottoman Empire था. Okay? Armenia, Turkey, Syria, Lebanon. This is Lebanon. ये पूरा Ottoman Empire था. And the Ottoman ruler used to rule from Turkey. Okay guys? Turkey. The Ottoman Empire collapsed in 1922. 18 collapsed, but 22 खत्म हो गया एकदम. So the British took over these areas. You know how the British are. Wherever they go, they sow seeds of discord, strife, hatred between communities. So not just the British, the Europeans actually. So what happened was this, the British and the Europeans promised the Jews that in 1917 they promised that, look guys, we will give you a separate homeland. You could go and live there. And as Jews began to come, the homeland was promised by the Europeans, the Brits and the French, especially in this area, okay, where Palestinians live. Palestinians are Muslims. They are Muslims, okay, Arab Muslims. The word Palestine comes from the old ethnic tribal community called Philistine. Okay, but anyway, leave that out. So what happened was that the Jews began to come here and they began to populate. The UN stepped in. There were lots of riots in the mid-40s, lots of riots between the Muslims and Jews. So the Europeans, sided with the Jews and said that ये काम करते हैं, we will do one thing, we will try and divide this area. we will give this blue colored area to Israel. We will give this blue colored area to Israel, and this light colored, cream colored or whatever you call it, this colored, shall go to Palestine. Shall go to Palestine. Now, the Israelis were happy. Earlier, they had only this, a very little area. They were promised very little area here, very little area here. Now they got this entire blue stretch. They were quite happy. But the Arabs were not happy. They said, how can you do this? How can you take away our land and give it to the Jews? This has been our homeland for 1400 years. So the Jews said, look, it is only 1400 years old for you, but for us it's more than 3000 years old. So it's been our homeland. It's the land that has been promised in our scriptures. So this is where all our prophets are born. So this is our homeland. So 14th May 1948, Israel declared independence. The creation of, not independence, the creation of Israel. The Jews there declared the creation of Israel, May 14th, 1948. The Arabs were angry, very angry. They couldn't believe this. So they attacked, you see this, from Syria, from Jordan, from Egypt and all, they attacked. You see, they came from all the sides. This is what is called the first Arab-Israel War, 1948 Arab-Israel War. The war happened. It was massive war. But understand, these were times when there were no sophisticated weapons, okay, and these were new armies. So the Muslim nations, the Arab nations, that is Syria, Jordan, Egypt, majorly these three, they attacked, Israel. What did Israel do? Israel not only defeated all the Arab nations, the coalition of the Arab nations, it actually occupied more of their land. You see this now? This is where the Arabs attacked. This blue, you see this blue? Yeah, this is this part, this area was original, what we called Israel, 1947. But you see this area here, this was meant to be Palestine. This is meant to be Palestine. Ye pura Palestine. This is Palestine. Okay? Now, the Israelis defeated all these countries and occupied, the entire area. It took away Palestinian territory. It took away Palestinian territory. So, the ceasefire was called. Arab nations, Muslim nations were massively defeated. They were humiliated. They felt humiliated that a tiny new country could attack all of us and defeat us. And take away our lands, they said. That's unthinkable. But that's what happened. So the Israelis said, okay, ceasefire. Cool, no problem. We are happy with the ceasefire. The ceasefire, what the Arabs expected was the Israelis will go back to their old, what was sanctioned to them in the 1947 partition plan, the first picture. But the Israelis refused to do this. Israelis said, hello, these are lands won by us in a war, These are not your donation or something, not someone else that gave us. You attacked us. So in a war, the territory that is won by us is ours. That's it. So Israel expanded to this area, this entire area. What was left of Palestine were two areas. One was this area here called, West Bank. What is it called? West Bank. And this was called Jordan. Sorry, this is called Gaza. So this entire area here, this area was taken over by Israel. You see the thing in pink here? This is Jerusalem. This is Jerusalem. Okay? Jerusalem is the holy land for all three religions: Islam, Christianity and Judaism. All three. And as I told you, we'll not get into the religion part here. But then, the UN said we will discuss this Israel, this Jerusalem part later. अभी के लिए छोड़ देते हैं, बाद में अभी इंटरनेशनल एरिया बनाते हैं इसको, थोड़ा पैलेस्टाइन in green Palestine, in blue, light blue, Israel. But then Arabs didn't agree. They attacked Israel. Israel took away the land belonging to the Arabs. So what happened to the other two areas? See, this became Israel in 1948. This became Israel, and you see this area here, West Bank. It's called West Bank, BANK, because this, you see, this is the river Jordan. This is the Dead Sea. What is it called? Dead Sea. This is where you have extraordinary salinity, and that makes people float. It has the highest salinity among all inland water bodies. Okay, and the salinity in the water, is so high that people float. In fact, if you throw this pen, it will float. It will not, sink. Actually, that's why people say that this water body has medicinal properties. We'll not go there. We'll stick to this point. So anyway, it's called Dead Sea because almost nothing survives inside. I mean, living creatures, marine creatures and all. So a river Jordan hai, this is river Jordan, and as we look at it, this settlement of Palestinians is on the west bank of river Jordan. That's why it's called West Bank. It's called West Bank. This was taken over by Jordan. So that's why it's called Jordan. Okay, this entire area became a part of Jordan, came under the rule of Jordan, and Gaza came under the rule of Egypt. It came under the rule of Egypt. So the first Arab-Israel war saw an attack by Muslim nations against the new Jewish nation of Israel. Within 2 months, Israel had not only defeated the Muslim nations, the coalition of Muslim nations, but actually expanded its territory. Okay, this is today's Palestine. आज भी Palestine यही है, ये वेस्ट बैंक, ये गाजा, दूसरा कुछ नहीं है. ये आज का इजराइल है. जो 1948 में इजराइल था, आज भी इजराइल वही है. Okay, in terms of area. Okay, so that is 20,770 square kilometers, this area. But if you add a little of settlements and everything, yeah, you can add 2,000 square kilometers, but that is not for you to know. Forget about it just. Okay, ये है आज का इजराइल फ्रेंड्स. जो 1948 में था, आज भी वही इजराइल है. 1948 status quo with regard to the land. The Arab nations were not happy with losing territory. They were not happy. So what they did was they attacked Israel. They attacked Israel again. In 1967, they attacked Israel. But Israel's intelligence agencies have always worked, in an extraordinarily efficient way. So much so that, they have had their spy agency is called Mossad. External spy, जिसे जो बाहर के देशों में spy करती है, जासूसी करती है, उसको Mossad कहते हैं, MOSSAD. And the one within the country is called Shin Bet, SHINBET, Shin Bet. Mossad is considered the world's most effective, efficient, and most dangerous spy agency in the world. So they have had spies everywhere. So, in 1967, their intelligence showed that, intelligence reports, the Arab nations would attack Israel in someday in 1967. So one day before the attack was to happen, so this was about 3 days before the attack was to happen. So the intelligence came, and what the Arabs did, what the Israelis did was, one day before the Arabs were to attack Israel, Israel launched an attack. Against especially Egyptian Air Force. This one here, this Cairo, Egyptian Air Force. And you know what? In one attack, they destroyed almost 75% of Egyptian Air Force. 75% of Egyptian Air Force. And not only that, see this. The war started 6 days. 6 दिन का युद्ध था ये, 6 days. And in these 6 days, Israel destroyed the Arab military, completely routed them. So much so that they now took back Palestine from Jordan. They took back West Bank from Jordan, Gaza from Israel, Gaza from Egypt. See this? 48 Gaza was occupied by Egypt and West Bank by Jordan. Now in the 1967 war, West Bank moved into the hands of Israel from Jordan, Gaza from the hands of Egypt. This area, you see this here, Golan Heights, this is Syrian territory. Syrian territory, ये पूरे पर्वत है यहाँ पे. This was occupied by Israel. You see this is peninsula, Sinai Peninsula. This was occupied by Israel, pura. See this is what Israel did. 4. One sovereign Egyptian territory of Sinai Peninsula. The other under Palestinian controlled area, Palestinian area of Gaza, but under Egyptian control. Then Syrian territory called Golan Heights. Then Palestinian territory West Bank, but under Jordanian control. All 4 were occupied by Israel. All 4. So ये है इजिप्ट, इसराइल. बहुत छोटा देश है, बहुत शक्तिशाली है, and it is difficult to defeat countries like Israel. ये है आज का इजिप्ट, इसराइल और जॉर्डन, पैलेस्टाइन. You see this is okay. West Bank and Gaza are separate Palestinian territories. What are they? Separate Palestinian territories. I would want you to write this. मैं भी थोड़ा लिखता हूँ आपके लिए. Okay, लिखिए प्लीज. एक काम करता हूँ, मैं आपको थोड़ा नोट्स में दूंगा नहीं, जनरली मैं देता नहीं हूँ ऐसी चीज़ों के लिए. बट यू कुड डू वन थिंग. ये जो सिनाई है, सो ओके, एक थोड़ा और बताता हूँ मैं. Actually, I thought of stopping there, but let me tell you a few more things. See, 67 the war ended. Egyptian area of Sinai Peninsula was taken over by, Israel. Israel and Egypt have been sworn enemies. Pakka, like India and Pakistan. They had been like that. But क्या हुआ? Egypt began to realize that if we have to live in peace with Israel, then we'll have to make sure that they and we, that is Egypt, both the countries don't have problems against each other. But the Arab countries, Syria, Jordan, other countries, they were not willing to negotiate with Israel. Almost no Muslim country had recognized Israel. But Egypt thought in national interest, we need to get back our Sinai Peninsula. So, first they tried force. In 1973, again, Egypt attacked Israel. All of them attacked Israel. Israel. This was the war called Yom Kippur War. Y-O-M, Yom Kippur, K-I-P-P-U-R, Kippur. ये Jewish festival होती है जिससे क्षमापना festival, people atone for their sins, people seek forgiveness for their pap and all that. Okay, so the Israelis were quite stunned, but they had intelligence, pre-war intelligence, that Egypt was going to attack Israel. How did they get this? Intelligence? On Netflix there is a series called The Angel. It's a film, 1 घंटा 45 मिनट की फिल्म है, The Angel, A-N-G-E-L. Okay, watch it. It will give you good idea. Okay, कुछ चीज़ें देखनी चाहिए, कुछ चीज़ें पढ़नी चाहिए, कुछ चीज़ें एक्सपीरियंस करनी चाहिए. मेरे हिसाब से सबका कॉम्बिनेशन होना, you should have a combination of all to become better. Okay. So again, there was this war in 73, but then the war, what happened was the Americans, the Europeans, they sided with Israel. So the Arab countries got angry. The Arab countries got very angry. So what they did was this. They raised the prices of oil. 1973. They raised the price of oil by almost 6 times, and this shook up the West. America, Europe, they were all dependent on imports, oil imports, energy imports from the Gulf area. Now they refused to sell to these countries unless they pay 5-6 times more. This event of abnormal increase in oil prices, because of the West support of Israel, is called the oil shock of 1973. The oil shock. Extraordinary increase in oil prices. So इसी के बाद America began to reduce its dependence on these countries, and that is where it began to cultivate what is called SPR, Strategic Petroleum Reserves. Strategic Petroleum Reserves America ने एक पॉलिसी स्टार्ट की 1974 में, if I'm not wrong, 74-75 में, 74-75, soon after the oil shock, which they said, we will have, because we are the largest consumer of oil and gas, we will have enough stock in our godowns, technically godown, okay, in our oil wells, cavern, it's called CAVER, and cavern means एक deep oil well होती है, stock करने के लिए, उसमें गुफा जैसे, we will assemble, we will set, we will store oil and gas, that especially oil, that would last us at least 115 days, at least 115 days. Without import हम 114 दिन के लिए काम कर सकें, ऐसा. This was idea, and this is where it started, because of the oil shock of 1973. Why? Because the Western countries blindly supported Israel, in this crisis in the Yom Kippur War. Because the Arab countries believed that the Palestinian rights were taken away by the Israelis, and this is not at all acceptable. How could the West support the Israelis so blindly? They don't sanction Israel for its military activities against Palestinians, against taking away their land. So ये सब कुछ हुआ, और 73 was more or less status quo, कुछ no territory exchange hands everything. But in 1982, 1977, sorry, Egypt and Israel signed a deal, which was like, the Egyptians said, okay, we no longer want the destruction of the state of Israel. From here on, we shall want the prosperity of Israel. So they signed a peace deal. This peace deal was brokered by American President Jimmy Carter. And this peace deal brought sworn enemies Egypt and Israel together. Even today they are friends. Friends. Yeah, you should know this. So, in fact, the current president of Egypt, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, is pretty close to the Israeli army. That's how the world works, because the Israeli army wants him to be in power in Egypt so that he could control the terrorists, in his country that want to wage a war against Israel. See this? So, you should see this. Israel's and Egyptian presidents' common enemies are terrorists, Islamic radicals. Enemy's enemy is a friend, and a friend's enemy is an enemy. That's how it works. So guys, अभी तो हाल काफ़ी ये देखिए, West Bank, Palestine. So if you want to write one line about Palestine, you would write comprises West Bank and Gaza. Comprises two territories, West Bank and Gaza. West Bank and Gaza. So युद्ध इसलिए हुआ था, my friends. This is less about religion, more about land. So West Bank में है अभी, there are 2-3 issues, major issues here. Why there is no peace even today? Because Israel says, we will give you this West Bank, we will give you this Gaza. But the Palestinians should promise us peace and security. So they wanted what's called land for security deal. That is, हम जमीन देंगे, हम ये आपकी होगी, ओके, यू कैन लिव हियर, यू कैन डिक्लेयर अ कंट्री हियर, but you should ensure that there is no violence against Israel from these lands. But there is ongoing violence. कहाँ पे? यहाँ पे। ये आप देख रहे हैं गाजा, yes, गाजा is a densely populated area, बहुत आबादी है, घनी आबादी है, बहुत छोटी जगह है, and it is run by, see, both Palestine, they the West Bank and Gaza are run by separately by two separate groups. Though politically it's one separate, they're separate controls. West Bank is run by Palestinian Authority, PA, Palestinian Authority. Again, Gaza is run by Hamas, HAMAS. Hamas is a terrorist group. It's declared a terrorist group, so it's a terrorist group, and you see, I think it was BBC where I took the picture. BBC. I was searching for Israel-Palestine map, so I found this to be very clear. Actually, isn't it clear? Yeah. So, Gaza में है Hamas, और Hamas has openly called for the destruction of the state of Israel. Hamas's primary goal is to destroy the state of Israel. Destroy the state of Israel. They say that we shall not recognize the state of Israel. We do not believe that the state of Israel exists. This is the Palestinian land, and this has been occupied by the Israelis. The Israelis said, this is our homeland, we will remain here, try to do whatever you want to do. Yeah. So Hamas today is in a very bad position. Earlier, there were loose control here along the Egyptian border. So these guys could. There are a lot of tunnels under the Gaza, from under Gaza into Egypt. But अभी वो सभी seal हो गए, and no trade goes into, no trading activity happens with Gaza. The Israeli Navy has blockaded this area. So nothing can come into Gaza. Sometimes humanitarian ships and all that are allowed, but that is subject to approval of Israel. Please know that. तो ये पूरा देखिए, ये इजिप्ट है, इसराइल है, पूरा ऑक्यूपाई किया हुआ है, सराउंड किया हुआ है वेस्ट बैंक को. ये आप देख रहे हैं, यू सी दिस एरिया जेरूसलम, दिस इज कंटेस्टेड कैपिटल. बोथ द Palestinians and Israelis claim this, but 2 years back the Israelis declared that Jerusalem will be the only capital of Israel, and the government will move there. And Donald Trump jumped in and said, "Hello, we are going to recognize Jerusalem is the only capital of Israel, and we are going to move American embassy from Tel Aviv, which is the de facto capital, to Jerusalem." So today the American embassy is in Jerusalem. The religious places of Christianity, Islam and Judaism you would find in Jerusalem. See, this is major issue, my friends. Lakhs and lakhs of Palestinians, live in Jordan, in refugee camps. They live in Syria, mostly in Jordan actually. Yeah, things are bad, very bad everywhere. But I'll tell you what it is now. In the end, 2 lines. Today, the Israelis don't have peace, and the Palestinians don't have freedom. You got it? Yeah, that's it, my friends. It's very bad. And if you think this bad, I'll tell you one more. एक और last बात होगा. ये जो वेस्ट बैंक है, ये पूरा पैलेस्टाइन आप समझ रहे हैं? You think it's all Palestine? No. What the Israelis did was, the Israelis have done is, they have set up Israeli settler colonies. About 5 lakh Israelis live in West Bank by putting up colonies. Whose land is that? Technically Palestinian, but the Israelis control this militarily. Entire thing is militarily controlled. The borders, everything has to have the approval of Israel. And Israel is not an ordinary military power, it's a super military power. It's not a superpower, a super military power. I mean, it makes some of the world's most sophisticated defense equipment. So there are 5 lakh Israelis Jews in West Bank today. Of course, Gaza they won't be because it's run by a terrorist organization. Okay, so काफ़ी खराब परिस्थिति है my friends वहाँ पे. So today's Palestine is West Bank and Gaza, but more or less West Bank. Golan Heights, though Syrian territory, is part of Egypt. It was annexed in 1981. 1981 में annex कर दिया इसको, अंदर डाल दिया. Back में डाल दिया Israel ने. And Israel is a deep, very close friend of India, my friends. Very, very close friend of India. Who are the close friends of Egypt in just last 30 seconds? Who are the close friends of Israel in this area? Close friends means very, very good relationship. Okay, they have Jordan, Saudi Arabia. Okay, they have UAE 3, 1, 2, 3 और बहरीन 4 और 5 इजिप्ट. ये बहुत अच्छे दोस्त हैं. और ओमान ये भी काफ़ी अच्छे दोस्त हैं. ये बहुत अच्छे दोस्त हैं सभी. ओके, बहुत अच्छे दोस्त हैं. और सबसे बड़े दुश्मन कौन है? सीरिया. Israel's enemies, Syria. In Lebanon there is a terrorist group called Hezbollah, which is a Shia militant group. So all the Shias here are anti-Israel. Iran, okay, the Iraqi government, because it's run by Iran. Syrian government run by the Shia ruler Bashar al-Assad. Okay, Pakistan is deeply anti-Israel, pakka anti-Israel. But Saudi Arabia is a very close friend. That's all. Okay, see, Iran wants to destroy Israel. Okay, Iran's enemy is Saudi Arabia. So enemy's enemy is a friend. Enemy's enemy is a friend. So Israel and Saudi Arabia are friend. So that's it, my friends. I just wanted to tell you a few things, my friends. So remember, the Palestinians don't have freedom and the Israelis don't have peace. So we spent close to 45 minutes on this. Yeah, 45 minutes. Let's go past this. Oh yeah, past this. आपको एक और मूवी के बात बताता हूँ. One is I mentioned The Angel, which is a film on Netflix, 1 hour 40 minutes or something. It's a true story. There is another, I think it's a series on Netflix. Yeah, it's a series. The Spy, SPY. वो एक सीरीज है Netflix में. अगर आपको मूवी देखनी है कि भाई बहुत मुझे इतना टाइम नहीं है कि मैं सीरीज देखूं, तो वॉच द एंजल एंड वॉच दिस मूवी बाय स्टीवन स्पीलबर्ग कॉल्ड Munich, M-U-N-I-C-H. What is it? Munich, M-U-N-I-C-h. Munich. It's a story, a real story that happened in Munich at the Munich Olympics in 1972. Palestinian terrorists attacked the games village where they killed 11 Israeli athletes. Okay. The idea was to take some Palestinian, Israeli athletes hostage, kidnap them, then negotiate with the Israeli government by, release 1,000 of our brothers from your jails and we'll release these athletes. But then the German police, without the permission of the Israelis, launched a military operation. It was a very bad failure, and failure में भी बहुत bad था वो. What happened next was that these gunmen escaped to different parts, and in those days there was no internet, no mobile communication, nothing. So finally the Israeli government launched a military operation to trace and kill all of those guys who attacked the Israeli athletes. They did that. This is a movie, Munich, M-U-N-I-C-H. देखिए, बहुत मजा आएगा आपको. Okay? Which country's central bank has announced the launch of a year-long pilot project of its proposed digital currency, e-krona. Krona is the currency of Sweden and Sweden. So you could say, they are launching electronic krona. They plan to launch it, but things are bad. Times are bad, so it's unlikely that they will launch anything now. Yeah. नॉर्वे की करेंसी है, नॉर्वे और डेनमार्क की करेंसी है क्रोन, KRONE, क्रोन. और Netherlands euro. Netherlands euro. Netherlands euro. Iceland is a place in it's an island country in North Atlantic near Greenland. This currency here is krona, like Sweden. It's called krona, Krona. So दो देशों की करेंसी है krona, Iceland और Sweden. Norway और Denmark की है kron, Krona, kron. चलिए, not much to discuss. You know the capitals of these places, na? Netherlands is Amsterdam, Iceland is Reykjavik, R-E-Y-K, yeah, just R-E-Y-K-J-A-V-I-K, Reykjavik, R-E-Y-K-Y-A-K-Y-A-J-A-I-V-K. Okay, then R-E-Y-K-J-A-V-I-K, Reykjavik. Denmark, Copenhagen, C-O-P-E-N-G-A-H-E-N, G-A-H-E-N, C-O-P-E-N-H-A-G-E-N, Copenhagen, Copenhagen. Then नॉर्वे ओस्लो, OSLO, ओस्लो. स्वीडन तो आप जानते होंगे, डेनमार्क, व्हाट इज इट, स्टॉकहोम, STOCKHOLM, STOCKHOLM, Stockholm. So, which of the following foreign banks has the highest number of banking branches operating in India? Standard Chartered. एक काम करते हैं, सिर्फ इनका हेड ऑफिस और CEO का नाम लिखते हैं. लिखिए फटाफट. स्टैंडर्ड चार्टर्ड डैश लंदन. विलियम विंटर्स. नेक्स्ट नीचे से चॉइस 4, Deutsche Bank, Deutsche. Say that? Deutsche. You can say Deutsche also, no harm. Deutsche. Technically it's Deutsche. Deutsche or Deutsche. Dash Frankfurt, F-R-A-N-K-F-U-R-T, Frankfurt. The CEO's name is Christian Sewing, S-E-W-I-N-G. Christian Sewing, S-E-W-I-N-G. Next, HSBC. HSBC is Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation. The head office is in London. The CEO's name is Noel, N-O-E-L, Noel Quinn, Q-U-I-N-N, Noel Quinn, Q-U-I-N-N. Next, BNP Paribas Bank, Nationality Paris. Paribas is in Paris. The CEO's name is Laurent Bonnet, L-A-U-R-E-N-T, Laurent Bonnet, B-O-N-N-E-T-T, or Bonnet, B-O-N-N-A-T-E, B-O-N-N-A-T-E, Bonnet. Next, Barclays, first one. Barclays, London. Stanley, J-E-S, Staley, S-T-A-L-E-Y. Which of the following categories of financial institutions disburse large credit largest credit to agriculture and allied activities? Simple one, no? Commercial banks, because they are the largest base. And as part of their what is called priority sector lending, they have to lend basically. 18% of that should go to agriculture and other sectors. Okay, 40% priority sector lending होती है, उसमें से 18% तकरीबन इनको जाती है. Which company has acquired Gujarat-based artificial intelligence startup Byte Prophecy? Accenture, and this is the CEO of Accenture. Her name is Julie Sweet. Please write Accenture dash dash CEO Julie Sweet, Julie Julie Sweet, SWEET, Julie Sweet. और उसके बाद हम जाते हैं फर्स्ट वाला ऊपर, एडोबी, ADOBE, एडोबी. कैसे प्रोनाउंस करते हैं? एडोबी, ADOBE, ई भी प्रोनाउंस होता है, ठीक है? एडोबी, एडोबी डैश CEO's name is Shantanu Narayan, NARAYN, Shantanu Narayan. TCS, oh sorry, Oracle, Oracle CEO is, what is his name here? Safra Cats, Safra, SAFRA, Safra Cat, CATZ, Safra Cats. Then we have TCS. TCS is, the full form is Tata Consultancy Services, and the CEO's name is Rajesh Gopinathan. Yeah. Capgemini, it's a French company. It has, I was reading about this company, and it has 2 lakh employees, of which about 1.2 lakh employees are in India. See, because that's how it is, my friends. So the CEO's name is Aman Ikads, Aman Ikads, EKATZ. I am not very sure of the spelling, but in case I am incorrect, I'll come back to you about this. Okay, guys? Yeah. Very new guy. In fact, just very recently he was appointed. Yeah. The RBI conducts long-term repo operations to improve monetary transmission. Making available durable liquidity, reasonable cost to banks, augment credit flows to productive sectors. Yes, I'll give you some notes. Please write some notes, please. Right. Write this LTRO, full form, long-term repo operations. Underline that. First one. RBI provides long-term funds to banks, at prevailing, PREVAILING, prevailing repo rate, repo rate dash, typically for a term of 1 to 3 years. 1 to 3 years. full stop. This is a break. This is a break from the normal practice. This is a break from the normal practice. This is a break from the normal practice as repo rate is applicable for loans of less than a year term, in brackets short-term loans. Okay, full stop. Banks get long-term funds at low rate of interest in brackets repo rate compared to the interest charged for loans of more than a year's duration, of loans with more than a year's term, in brackets bank rate, full stop. The current repo rate is 4%. The current repo rate is 4%, while the bank rate is 4.25%. Full stop. Next point. You see the first and the second points, they sound similar, but the second point has an added benefit. We introduced the idea of bank rate. Bank rate is given for interest rate charged on long-term loans, and it is generally higher, 4.25% in this case. But the RBI is now giving, long-term loans at short-term interest rate, which means the interest rate the banks pay is low. Yes. So what happens is next point. This means that banks pay lower rate of interest to the RBI dash. In other words, their rate of interest, their cost of borrowing, in other words, their cost of borrowing has gone down. Full stop. Next point. A reduced cost of borrowing, as cost of borrowing reduces, banks can lend to corporates or companies, at lower rates dash. This passing passing the benefit, this passing, PASSID, passing the benefit of low interest rate is also called credit transmission. Last point. Why did the RBI launch LTRO? Okay. Next. Below that, right? In the last 2 years, or since the last 2 years, companies have been finding it tough to raise raise capital, to raise funds dash first because of the NBFC crisis, non-banking financial companies crisis, the NBFC crisis, because a lot of these NBFCs collapsed, ILFS collapsed, a lot of money was stuck, banks began as NBFCs, they didn't want to lend, so liquidity dried up, there was no easy paisa now, so NBFC crisis and two because of coronavirus pandemic. Who's lending? No one's lending. So the RBI has been saying, we'll cut interest rate, you pass the benefit to companies. So we will reduce the interest, you will pay less, you pass on this benefit to others, especially the companies. Why? Last point. The idea is to provide liquidity to companies, which would in turn generate economic activity, So companies borrow money, invest, production, service availability, whatever. Economic. So when production investment happens, everything, employment generation happens. Employment generation means paisa, there is income. Income would mean demand for goods and services. That would mean again economic stimulus. So this is how the cycle is. That's the idea. Things are good, but how much they have raised? Almost more than 1 lakh crore rupees, my friends. They promised 1 lakh crore rupees through, repo. This is LTRO. There is another thing called targeted LTRO. That's something else. Okay, some other time we'll discuss that. Okay. According to the United Nations Gender Social Norms Index, today is health wise, which country in the world has the least population with sexist beliefs? Sexist beliefs means that women deserve like this, men deserve like this. When women say men deserve that, men's place is like that, and men say that women should be in the kitchen and all that. These are sexist beliefs. Based on gender, people have certain beliefs of the other gender. So, which is the country in the world with the least population? Andorra. Why? Because that itself is a very tiny country. Andorra है ही बहुत छोटा देश. यहाँ मैंने मैप नहीं लगाया, लेकिन this is between France and what is this place? Between France and Spain. बहुत छोटा छोटा देश है. And think the area is about 467 square kilometers, if I'm not wrong. I remember it correctly. 467 square kilometers, and the total population is 77,000. Yeah, so obviously and उसमें बच्चे होंगे या एल्डरली होंगे, औरतें कितने मर्द, वो भी आप सब देखिए. So but still people believe that women, there's no discrimination. They don't have a different view with regard to some particular thing just because people are different sex. Like for example, मैं पढ़ रहा था, ये रिपोर्ट पढ़ रहा था मैं, तो इस रिपोर्ट में मैंने कहा, एक जगह पढ़ा कि it would take 257 years current level of economic, the way growth is happening. It would take 257 years to bridge the gender pay gap, in terms of economic activity. 257 years. I mean, it's a crazy world, isn't it? Yeah. And I also read that about 26% of men and women both believe both 26% of men and women across the world believe that it is perfectly okay for a man to beat a woman. You cannot believe what people say. Yeah, people could be so stupid, isn't it? Yeah. In any case, that's how, my friends. Okay, but most people hold a bias against women. Yeah. अरे ये रहा एंडोरा. आई एम सॉरी, ये रही यार, यहाँ पे मैंने मैप तो नेक्स्ट लाइन में लगा. ये रहा, ये जो है ना, ये पार्ट, दिस इज एंडोरा. एकदम छोटा सा ऑन द बॉर्डर, 467 square kilometers. That means it's a very small place, isn't it? So, you know what? This is Luxembourg. So I will tell you how gender roles work, how the government of India negotiates through this. Okay? Luxembourg में प्रेसिडेंट प्राइम मिनिस्टर है Xavier Bettel, XAVIER, Xavier Bettel, BETTEL. I think he is openly gay. He is a homosexual. Now, आपने शादी की, इनके एक मेल पार्टनर है, तो जब प्रोटोकॉल के हिसाब से कोई फॉरेन डिग्नेटरी हिंदुस्तान आते हैं, तो हम we have this, let's say the French president, the wife, basically they're recorded separately. Now in this case, we know French president is a man, his wife is a woman. But in this case, where the man, in the relationship, in the marriage, there are two males, how will you determine who is the wife and the husband? So they have to tell the protocol. So I am the husband, she is the, this is the wife, this is the wife. Otherwise, I am the wife, this is the husband. They have to specify this to the protocol. So then the protocol, takes precedence. कौन है, कैसे behave करना, कैसे करना. These are all very dangerous things to negotiate, isn't it? Otherwise, it could offend people. Yeah. So luckily, our guys are smart. Indians are smart enough to know what to do, how to do things. So here. Public Service Broadcasting Day is celebrated every year on 12th November. Why? That's the only day. You want the reason? The only day, the only time Mahatma Gandhi visited the headquarters of All India Radio to give a talk. Only time, actually. Okay? 1948, if I'm not wrong. No, sorry, 1947. 12th November 1947. Yeah. Why 48 can't be right? Because he died on 31st January 1948. Isn't it? Yeah. So, I love bad jokes. What about the choices? 9th January. You could write 9th January is Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. 10th January. Hindi Divas. Hindi Divas. Hindi Divas. 16th September. Ozone Day. Ozone. O-Z-O-N-E. Ozone Day. Ozone Day. Ozone Day. 23rd December. Kisan Divas. Kisan Divas. Kisan Divas. Farmers Day. Birthday of Chaudhry Charan Singh. Kisan Divas in honor of birthday of Chaudhry Charan Singh. Chaudhry Charan Singh. Last year the NIBM celebrates Golden Jubilee. In this connection, which other statements are true? I think we discussed NIBM in the past, and because you've gone through this, already there's nothing to discuss. Everything is right, my friends. Okay. Identify the correct match. KOSPI, these are the names of the indexes, stock exchange indexes. KOSPI is South Korean index. It's Seoul, S-E-O-U-L, Seoul Stock Exchange. KOSPI, Seoul Stock Exchange. CAC, Paris Stock Exchange. That's the name of the index at Paris Stock Exchange. NASDAQ, the index is, the exchange is called NASDAQ. NASDAQ, New York. FTSE is Financial Times Stock Exchange, London. Financial Times Stock Exchange, London. So, Financial Times Stock Exchange, London. Choice 5 जो है Bolsa de Madrid, it's the stock exchange main, the index at Madrid Stock Exchange. Madrid, M-A-D-R-I-D. Madrid Stock Exchange. Madrid Stock Exchange. जर्मनी आप लिख सकते हैं फ्रैंकफर्ट स्टॉक एक्सचेंज, वहां पे इंडेक्स का नाम है डैक्स, DAX, DAX. I had given you a complete list of stock exchange indexes. Yeah, this is the revision of some of them. DAX for Frankfurt Stock Exchange. So this is a question that I thought is self-explanatory. I read this. I read a lot of literature on this. Which of the following statements are true with regard to additional tier 1 bonds in the context of Yes Bank having written down these bonds? These are very dangerous bonds. I went through this, and these are way too complex for any bank exam, any kind of IBPS exam to have any questions on this. Okay? So this is one way of taking money from the public, and these are what called perpetual, unlimited, unending, unsecured. That is, a bond typically has a security. It's like a loan. Okay, but in this case, these are all unsecured loans. So you give money. ठीक है, you take this bond. I'll give you 10% interest or whatever, very high rate of interest. In case, and there are a lot of other conditions as well. In case it clicks, you get a lot of money. In case it doesn't click, the company goes bankrupt, your money is gone. Your money is gone. All the people who are invested in this have lost money, this particular bond. Okay, because there is no security, there is against it basically. Which country's government has decided to pay 75% of the salaries in the private sector for 3 months? On account of the coronavirus disruptions. Denmark, but ये है छोटा देश, बहुत छोटा देश है, एकदम छोटा देश है. Its GDP is about $400 billion something, my friends. About, I think last 3 years it's seriously struggled. It's about 370. You could write Denmark dash. Why they could pay is the population is small, the private economy is very small. Okay, you could write total GDP $370 billion. 370. I just want to write the number so that I remember. $370 billion. Per capita income $63,000. $63,000 per capita income, $63,000. Area $43,000. So that now you will know. My God, look at this. I was talking, yeah, population I didn't mention, 59 lakhs. 59 lakh population. Now you divide the GDP by total population, $370 billion by 59 lakh, you will get something like $63,000. Mad! And yet the government is paying 75% of the salaries. Denmark is one of the largest exporters, producers and exporters of pork, P-O-R-K. बहुत अमीर देश हैं, लेकिन टैक्स रेट्स बहुत हैं. लोग कहते हैं कि भाई वहाँ पे इतनी फैसिलिटीज देते हैं, the government pays so much in terms of facilities and everything, but the taxes that give so many facilities, free healthcare, free this and that. You should know the tax rates are about 38 to 44%. At one, in certain brackets at about 60%. Who would pay this much in India? Huh? And everyone there is honest. It's one of the most honest countries in the world, on this planet. New Zealand, Denmark, Norway are considered the most honest countries. Yeah, and you know how our country is basically. People don't want to pay tax. Hemis National Park is in Ladakh. You could write India's largest national park. India's largest national park. India's largest national park dash 4,400 square kilometers. 4,400 square kilometers dash home to the largest home to the largest concentration of largest population of snow leopards. Largest population of snow leopards. Largest population of snow leopard. Snow leopard. It's very high altitude. Yeah, I was seeing these photographs. I see this is a snow leopard. You see the tail of that? It's very thick, large, because that gives it balance. Jumping around those mountains, everything. It stations it in the center of gravity, basically. So, Arunachal Pradesh, what national park would you put there? Namdhapa, N-A-M-D-H-A-P-A. N-A-M-D-H-A-P-A. Namdhapa National Park. Namdhapa National Park. Namdhapa National Park. It's famous for birds, especially. Yeah, Namdhapa. It's also famous for tigers. And सिक्किम में बहुत बड़ा famous park है right, Kanchenjunga. I don't know how to pronounce it with all those vowels especially, but Kanchenjunga is a proper name. You write K-H-A-N-G K-H-A-N-G Z-H-E-N-J-U-N-G-A Janga, Kanchenjunga. K-H-A-N-G-J-E-N. In some places you'll find C-H-E-N. Both are fine. Okay. K-H-A-N-G-J-E-N-G-A. And some places you will find, and you can write the alternate spelling. You could write K-H-A-N-G-C-H-E-N-Z-O-N-G-A. मैंने दोनों देखी थी तो रेख्याविक की स्पेलिंग तो कोई किताबों में अलग होगी है. देखिए फॉर एग्जांपल द स्टैंडर्ड स्पेलिंग इज R-E-Y-K-J-A-V-I-K. What is Reykjavik? The capital of Iceland. R-E-Y-K-J-A-V-I-K. That's a standard spelling. But I normally give 2-3 spellings if necessary. That is, if necessary. Kanchenjunga is the 3rd tallest peak in the world. So Jammu and Kashmir, what national park? Kishtwar. There is Dachigam, Kishtwar. You write Kishtwar. K-I-S-H-T-W-A-R. Kishtwar, Kishtwar. Uttarakhand, plenty of them. Corbett is there, which is India's first national park. Nanda Devi, right? Nanda Devi, Nanda Devi, Nanda Devi. Next. Who is the face of the RBI's Twitter campaign for customers to adopt digital modes of payment that are convenient and safe? Amitabh Bachchan. Amitabh Bachchan stands for trust, my friends. Amitabh Bachchan stands for trust. That's why there are so many finance or government campaigns that go around his name, my friends. Please know that. Okay? Yeah. The reasons why. Because he for example, when his company ABCL faced bankruptcy, he paid back everyone. He paid back everyone, and that shows trust. Yeah, person is trustworthy. That's why they take him, his help, and Amitabh Bachchan resonates, charisma. Sukoon, COVID-19, Beat the Stress, a program to spread awareness about the psychological impact of lockdown and measures to overcome, has been started by the state of Jammu, the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Jammu and Kashmir. And Delhi के Chief Minister, Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. See, there are two union territories that are legislatures and that have chief ministers. One is Delhi's Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, and this other union territory is Pondicherry, whose Chief Minister is V. Narayan Swamy. V. Narayan Swamy. So we know the CMs of all the other places. Which institution has released its annual economic publication, the Asian Development Outlook 2020 by Asian Development Bank? Things are going to be very bad. They have already scaled India's GDP growth rate to, I think, 1.2% or something. It's going to be worse than that if things don't improve in the next 3 months. Yeah, but hopefully things. Let's see. Hope Let's pray. Hope things work, my friends. We have taken notes on each of these, haven't we? But I can give you where the places are or CEOs. एक दो लिखते हैं, सभी नहीं लिखते हैं. बार बार रिपीट करना हर चीज़ के लिए अच्छा नहीं होता. AIIB is Asian Investment Infrastructure Bank. Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Dash. Beijing. We'll just take the head offices. Beijing, BEIJING, Beijing. ADB, Asian Development Bank. Manila, MANILA, Manila. Next, World Bank, IMF, Washington. Then choice 5 is New Development Bank is in Shanghai. We took the names already, so KV Kamath for NDB, IMF is Kristalina Georgieva, David Malpass at World Bank is sitting in the head office of World Bank, Masatsugu Ayakawa for ADB, Jim Likun for AIIB. Repeat नहीं होना चाहिए ना, notes वगैरह. Who is the author of the book titled Hop On, My Adventures on Boats, Trains and Planes? Ruskin Bond. This is Ruskin Bond. You should read Ruskin Bond. आप एक अलग दुनिया में चले जाएंगे, बच्चों की दुनिया जो कि सबसे अच्छी दुनिया होती है. Terrific guy. Recently during the lockdown on All India Radio at 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. he used to he would narrate a story over phone. I heard that now. Terrific. You should read, my friends. मजा आएगा. और नॉलेज बढ़ेगा, लैंग्वेज स्किल्स बढ़ेगी. इससे बढ़िया क्या हो सकता है? So Tagline Singh is a journalist who's always anti-government, anti-BJP. Yeah. So I'll not discuss all that stuff. Mary Jordan is a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, but they're not important for us. 1 and 2 also are journalists and writers. They wrote one book together. What is that? It's about those British guys. Finding Freedom. Finding Freedom dash Harry and Meghan. Harry, Harry, Harry and Meghan, 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 actually Meghan, Harry and Meghan, and the making of a modern British, and the making of a modern royal family, making of a modern royal family. Okay, those guys have left the royal family, na? Chaliye. But please read Ruskin Bond. Yeah, you want to. This is very best pick of Ruskin Bond. But I would suggest one book. You write our trees. Our trees still grow. Our trees still grow in Dehra, Dehra. Dehra. You will find a certain smile on my face because of this, the kind of writers, these people, this guy, the kind of writer this guy is. Amazing, fun. Our trees still grow in Dehra, Dehra, Dehra. He lives in Uttarakhand. He's, I think, 84 years old. God bless. Who is the president of Namibia? ये रहा नमीबिया. देखिए नबीब नाम डेजर्ट के नाम से आया नमीबिया. Hege Gengog. Okay. Joe Lorenco, Angola. You could write, just write. We'll just cut it short. We have had a very long talk. Oh my God, it's more than 1.5 hours. So please just write the names of the countries. John Lorenco, Angola. Philip Nyusi. Philip Nyusi is Mozambique. यहाँ इस तरफ Mozambique. ये रहा Mozambique. काफी बड़ा देश है Mozambique. Philip Nyusi. Oh, I went to number 3 here. Okay. Philip Nyusi, Mozambique. Edgar Lungu, Zambia. One of the world's largest exporters of copper. John Magufuli, ऊपर यहाँ पे Tanzania, यहाँ पे ये रहा ये Tanzania. This is Tanzania. I'll tell you sometime the story here, what happened here in 1487. चलते हैं. The central government has implemented the 3 important recommendations of the Nbfc Crisis Committee on border infrastructure. Now the China thing is happening, China tensions. Some class I'll bring in China, India-China border issues or India-Pakistan border issues. Today we discuss Israel-Palestine. So I said, okay. Border infrastructure, banking, Narsimhan Committee, banking reforms, Narsimhan Committee, insurance, Malhotra Committee for insurance. No particular committee for that 4. 5 is SS Tarapur Committee, SS Tarapur, Tarapur, Tarapur Committee, SS Tarapur Committee. Which of the following cities were awarded or rated 5-star in the star rating of garbage-free cities in the Union Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs? Who is the Union Minister of Housing and Urban Affairs? I think it is Hardeep Singh Puri, if I'm not wrong. Hardeep Singh Puri, yeah, the same civil aviation guy, I think. Yeah. No, you know what? The highest rating was 7-star. No city got 7-star, but some cities got 5-star. Ambikapur in Chhattisgarh, Mysuru in Karnataka, Rajkot and Surat in Gujarat, Navi Mumbai, Navi Mumbai, in Maharashtra, and Indore in Madhya Pradesh. Indore in Madhya Pradesh. So 5-star, which is good. Yeah, I mean, cities are cleaning them. Cleaning up their act is a very good thing, my friends. It's good for the people who live there. But remember, no city in the 7-star category. Which state has launched the vehicle service? The H is silent. Vehicle service for rural women for safe childbirth, say pregnancy, delivery, and all that. Madhya Pradesh. Didi is sister. Didi means sister. So, who is the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh? Shivraj Singh Chauhan. Shivraj Singh Chauhan. Shivraj Singh Chauhan. Which country has recently approved a new political map including India's Kalapani Lake as its own territory? Nepal. Yeah, we'll discuss this. Let this situation unfold. We'll just discuss this a little more vividly in the next week, my friends. Okay? Today it's a little time consuming. This is a very time consuming thing. Who has been appointed as the chairman of National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development? This week, Sri Govindarajulu Chintala has become the new chairman of NABARD. This week. Okay, yeah. And what about choice 3? He's a guy who's an outgoing chairman. He's the outgoing chairman of NABARD. Outgoing chairman of NABARD, Harsh Kumar Bhanwala. Choice 2, Mohammad Mustafa, chairman of SIDBI. Chairman of SIDBI, Small Industries Development Bank of India. Yeah, Small Industries Development Bank of India. Also Mudra Bank. Anyway, leave it. SIDBI is enough. Nand Kishore Singh, chairman of 15th Finance Commission. Chairman of 15th Finance Commission. Chairman of 15th Finance Commission. Sangeeta Reddy. Sangeeta Reddy is joint managing director of Apollo Group, and more importantly, she is the president of FICCI. President of FICCI. 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 The full form is Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce. Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry. Commerce and Industry. Chambers of Commerce and Industry. M.V. Rajshekharan, who recently passed away, was a politician. He was a Congress guy. Nothing to discuss, guys. I don't discuss things that don't matter. Yeah, Satyendranath Bose National Center for Basic Sciences is at Kolkata. This is the great Satyendranath Bose, my friends. Satyendranath Bose. He was born in, you would want to write, just write 1-2 lines. Born 1894. Born 1894 dash died 1974. Born 1894 dash died 1974. Next. What is it? Known for contribution to quantum mechanics. Known for contribution to quantum mechanics dash. Next point. The quantum particle boson, boson, is named after him. Is named after him. Extraordinary, my friends, extraordinary, guys. I'm a science quiz guy, science quiz master. So reading about this long back, I've read about him. So when I read about this question, I was like quite fascinated. Anyway, but unfortunately, the word boson, like in Higgs boson, the H in Higgs boson is capitalized H. The B is not capitalized. B should have been capitalized. But that's how the Western world works. What's the tagline of Punjab and Sindh Bank? I think this is the last question. Yeah. We'll end it with some light-hearted stuff. Punjab and Sindh Bank relation, where service is a way of life. Where service is a way of life. And what about relationship beyond banking? Relationship beyond banking is Bank of India. Bank of India. Bank of India. And what about smart way to bank? Karur Vaisya Bank. Karur Vaisya Bank. Karur Vaisya Bank. So that's it, my friends. That's all about it. Hey, one family, one bank. If I'm not wrong, it is Honors Your Trust. Sorry, Honors Your Trust is UCO Bank. UCO Bank. UCO. UCO Bank. Okay, which is Calcutta based. Thanks for being here, my friends. I hope you learned a few good things about the Israel-Palestine crisis, as I promised that I would share. I did today. Please leave your feedback. It would help us make such sessions. If you're not interested, you didn't like it, if we don't get good feedback, if we don't get feedback, I'm sure that we are not going to spend so much time on such issues. I love talking about this, but you should enjoy learning about this. Okay, thanks for being here. Have a lot of fun. Enjoy yourself.